Hi, in this video, I'll show you how to work with your own Veda times model via Veda2 in sync with Veda Online. This is particularly useful when you work with other collaborators registered on Veda Online on the same models. This video is organized in two main parts. First, I'll show you how to create a new repository with your own model on GitHub. A GitHub account is a prerequisite, and how to access this model via Veda Online as a private repository. Second, I'll show you how to work on your model via Veda2 and Veda Online in sync. Let's start now with the creation of a new repository. There are a few steps to follow. First, go to your GitHub desktop, then move to File, and for example, click on Add Local Repository. Here you can choose the local path where your model actually is. In my case, it's under C, Veda models, and under a folder which is called My Models, and I can select this folder. Now you see that GitHub tells that this is not a Git repository yet, and it suggests that a creation of a repository is needed. So we can click here on Create a Repository. We can confirm the name, add a description if needed, initialize the repository with a README file, and then finally create the repository. And take a few seconds. Once it's done, we can publish the repository. And now we have to decide whether this repository is private or public. Let's keep this code private for now, meaning that you can decide who can see and commit to this repository, and we can then publish the repository in the end. Once everything is done, it'll take just a few seconds, we can just go here, click on Show in Explorer to see the exact contents of the repository in the same local path that we have clearly declared before. After the creation of the repository, you want now to access and control the model locally via Veda2, as well as via Veda Online. To control the model via Veda2 from your local machine, you can move to your installed version of Veda2, go to Model, add New, and then browse for the folder where your model is stored, select it, and what you get in the end is the entire set of files that you can synchronize. I've already synchronized the model here, and in the end of the process, you will get something similar to this one. But to work with your private and public models via Veda Online directly, you need to connect your repositories with Veda Online, making use of some PATs, personal access tokens. Let's see how to do that. To generate the personal access token and connect your repository, private and public, with Veda Online, you have to follow some simple steps. Go to your GitHub here, and in particular, click on Settings under your icon here. Then move to the bottom and click on Developer Settings here. Here you have one button to generate your personal access token. You can click here and generate it. You can assign here a description. For example, you can assign an expiration date, let's say just 7 days. You have to select the permits that you grant to this. For example, just click here on repo, just basically to allow and facilitate actions like commit, push, pull. And then at the very bottom of this, click on generate token. This is the token that you can copy and paste on your Veda Online here. When you move to create model, you can paste the token here and just type your username, which in my case is rdmgit77, and you can save it. So now I have access to some of the models, all the models basically, which are stored under my GitHub account. And to finalize the process, the only remaining thing to do is to select the model we are interested in. This is my model _1. select the branch, and decide whether we want to keep this public or private. So in this case, I pick private and just create the model. After this is done, then basically I can see this model under my list of available model here. This is my model underscore 1, private, and I can select it and start playing with the model, first of all, by synchronizing it, and then browsing it, running the scenarios, and checking the results. Once the previous steps are completed, the model can be controlled both via Veda2 from the single local machine, as well as by Veda Online from all the collaborators that I've invited to co-work on that specific repository, even without an installed version of Veda2. Let's see an example of this flexibility and of the possible use and benefits of this operation in sync. So from my version of Veda2 installed on my machine, I can make a change to one of the parameters of the model. Let's say, for example, that I want to change the investment cost of new wind technologies. So I can simply browse the model and search for this specific process. I can type here wind. This is the process I'm interested in, and I can click on browse. And here is the value corresponding to the investment cost. I can simply double click on this cell, and automatically the corresponding Excel will be open. And then I can simply adjust this figure. For example, I can multiply this number by a factor 1.25. Can save it, close the file, move to my GitHub, and comment this change, commit, and push. So now what happens is that in my local Veda, if I click on refresh, I see as usual that Veda spots a difference here, and this calls for a new synchronization. But what actually happens is that this change is also seen via Veda Online. So if I move to Veda Online and I click on refresh, this is actually what happens. Veda Online sees the same difference, which basically means that all the collaborators of the repository can see the difference and the change that I've made. And this change calls for a synchronization even in the online version of the model that can be launched, controlled, and analyzed by another user, for example, who has access to this model. So in other words, this mode of work creates the category of model users, which are not necessarily the model developers or the model owners. So the hard work in terms of model development can be undertaken by Veda2, but the incremental changes, the improvements, and the deployments can be undertaken under Veda Online. Another simple example is the following. Making use of my Veda2, a local version of the software, I can create a new case. So I can move to the Run Manager, and then I can make a copy of one of the existing cases. For example, let's start from this one, double click here, copy case, and rename this case like test 3. And I can save the case here. Similarly, I can also create a new set by going here to set editor. Yep. And let's assume that I want to create a set which includes only the process for mining coal. So I can click here, new. I can slightly modify this code, something like this. All the mining coal processes are listed in this category. And then I can simply name the set and save it. Now, from my local version of Veda, I can control all these new changes and I can use it. I can run the model on the basis of these new elements. But what happens is that if I go to my GitHub and I just comment these changes, like new case and set, I commit to main and push origin, what happens is that also the Veda online, so the online version of the model, sees these changes. So if I move to my Veda online and I click on refresh, I, as well as all users who has access to this model, can basically run scenarios making use of these three new elements that we have just introduced. So let's see whether after this synchronization, all the three changes that we have made and be correctly transferred to the Veda online. Synchronization will take just a few seconds. Now that is completed, we can browse the online model, for example, by searching for the new wind technology. This is the process we are interested in. We can browse it and see that the investment cost for this specific process is now larger than the default value and is adjusted by the factor we have introduced in the local version. Then we can easily check from here that by this drop-down menu, there is also this extra set, this new set that we just created, mining coal, that was created actually locally and was transferred to the online version. And then if we move to the run manager, the area from which actually user can control and launch the scenarios, and we scroll this list of cases, we can see that also the demo S012 test tree is available and can be launched by any user who has access to this model. More in general, all the collaborators of a repository can also create branches of the model by GitHub. From here, new branch. So they can experiment with different assumptions via Veda online and propose changes of the specific elements of interest, even without having Veda2. This facilitates quite a lot the co-design of the scenarios and the co-interpretation of the various influencing factors, as well as of the outputs. One of the next video will be dedicated, therefore, to the specific analysis of the views, results, and reports of Veda online, with some examples and more details. That is all for now. Thank you for watching.